Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers with your host, Bang and Dang. Bang right here. Dang on my left this time instead of the usual right.
Oh.
But we are here for
Episode 2.
part 2.
I know you guys love the part 1s and 2s.
The old sagas.
Yeah.
The old part 2 of O.J. Simpson murder case. Part 1, we covered the murder and the infamous Bronco chase.
All these years, I thought that was OJ's Bronco that they were in. I didn't know that it was his buddies or his drivers.
They had identical ones.
Right. I didn't know that. All these years. That was on an episode of Pawn Stars, too. The infamous Bronco. Ricky was going to buy it, but the guy wanted so much money for it. And he said,
I think that was O.J.'s Bronco that was on there.
oh, was it OJ's?
Because the Bronco used in a chase is at some crime museum right
The
now.
Henry Ford.
That'd be cool if it was.
Anyhow, it's come to our attention that we have to, for some reason, put a disclaimer on the beginning of every episode from here on out for the serious heads out there.
Yeah. Some of you, most of you that listen, get what we do here. It's not some, if you went back and listened to, first of all, the first few episodes and many episodes be after that, we've clearly explained on here, we're not experts. We're not historians, just two average dudes drinking a couple beers and learning about history with you guys. We learn with you guys. We're not here to teach you guys history.
Just like one comment said, it seems like they're reading about it the first time. Well, we are. Well, at least I am.
Some of the stuff is for pretty much the very first time. Skim through it to get the research and all that stuff to get the episode together, but we do it purposely so that way we're reacting to the story in real time on the episode,
legitly.
Right. So that way it's real reactions and real oh, that's crazy, and
We mispronounce names.
that way we can have real reactions and real conversations and go off script a little bit about it, and that's what the show is. The show is never ever meant to be
Serious.
a serious history straight up. You're gonna learn like a documentary type deal. Never ever.
No, sorry. So if that's what you're looking for, you might as well shut us off right. You might as well shut us off right now. I thought my fan just started on fire, but it was just a piece of plastic. And we're in my garage is 110 degrees right now.
So we thought we'd put that out there for everybody that is tuning in for the first time and thinking you're getting a straight up, no BS, straight history lesson here. No, we're gonna go off script. We're gonna do our stupid little humor.
We're gonna murder names to the oblivion, as one comment said.
No pun intended on the murder part for this episode, anyways. So that's pretty much it. That's what we do. We're not a serious podcast. We don't take ourselves serious. We don't think of ourselves as true podcasters like that. We don't. No. We just do the show for fun, and hopefully, if we can entertain a couple people and people can learn some stuff at the same time, and that's fine. But that's what we do. Other
than that,
don't mind the fan sound blow. I'm gonna try to get the fan sound out of there as much as possible, but it's literally like 100 degrees where we're at right now. Big heat wave in the Midwest right now. So.
And as I've been saying for the past 6 months, Studio 2 is still under operation. Still under construction.
He's been saying that for 6 years before it even was a studio. So, with that being said, we'll get into the episode. Like I said, part 1, we covered the actual murder and the investigation of the murder. And then the infamous Bronco chase, and ending with OJ getting taken into custody, and kind of covered a little bit of the news coverage that was going on and the media hysteria and the public that were literally lining overpasses while the Bronco was coming down the freeway saying, "Run, OJ, run!"
So, and another historic event happened here: the conception of one of the Kardashians. Which one was it?
She was already born by now.
Courtney? She was already born by now, yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So take that out of there. She was already born by now? Pretty sure.
No, 94. She's 04, 14. 04, 14, 20. She's more than 30 years old, that's for sure.
Right.
So, yeah. So, here we go. We're on to the trial, and what you guys are going to get here is in-depth evidence, cross-examination, everything said in the trial from day one to day last, and the infamous, obviously, you guys know what happens at the end of the trial, and then we'll get the reactions of the nation and what happened to OJ afterwards. I'm pretty sure we all know that, too.
Right.
But moving on, Simpson wanted a speedy trial, and the defense and prosecuting attorneys worked around the clock for several months to prepare their cases. The trial began on January 24th, 1995, 7 months after the murders.
Well, that's not a speedy trial.
Well, I mean, speedy as can be, I guess.
Right.
It was televised by closed-circuit TV camera.
Yeah, I remember.
Via Court TV, obviously.
Yeah.
And in part by other cable and network news outlets. There's the first botched thing. Sorry, guys. For 134 days, this trial lasted.
Yeah.
Judge Lance Ito presided over the trial in the C.S. Foltz Criminal Courts building.
All right, so we got a 134-day trial. It's on television every single day. Everybody had Court TV back in the day. I don't know what it was called. Was it called Court TV?
Always Court TV. Now it's True TV.
Is it?
That's Court TV, yeah. Court TV still has their, like,
Right.
little thing on, like, Pluto and all that, but it became True TV.
It became Spike. Oh, Spike is Paramount, right?
True TV is what Court TV used to be. Well,
True TV.
it turned into True TV.
Right.
And they stopped doing the court stuff.
Right. And then they started doing nothing but... No, True TV is...
True TV is...
It used to be nothing but the reality.
They got the stupid, I think, Smoking Gun and all that stuff was on there.
Right. District Attorney Jill Garcetti. I think it's Gil.
Or obviously Gil.
Right. District Attorney Gil Garcetti elected to file charges in downtown L.A. as opposed to Santa Monica, in which jurisdiction the crimes took place. Well, you think it should have been in Santa Monica, right? How can you file charges in L.A. when it happened in Santa Monica?
I think he was arrested in L.A.
Okay.
Wasn't that's where the chase was?
It was somewhere over there, right?
Yeah, because he got pulled up. No, yeah. Well, no, because he lived in Brentwood, and that's where he got arrested. I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, I guess. The Los Angeles Superior Court then decided to hold the trial in downtown L.A. instead of Santa Monica due to safety issues.
Of course.
Right. The Santa Monica courthouse, I guess, wasn't very... it wasn't a place to have that type of trial, I guess, right?
And let's be honest. Most likely because Santa Monica is some
Richie
rich
right.
shit, and they didn't want that going on there.
Yeah, especially a black guy.
Right.
The decision may have affected the trial's outcome because it resulted in a jury pool that was less educated.
Oh, wow.
Had lower incomes.
Racist much.
And contained more African Americans.
Racist much. Also, they're saying the more African Americans helped OJ. Everybody thought OJ was Uncle Tom, token white black guy. What are you talking about?
Right.
I'm sure it's be in this. He had pictures of all he had in his house was paintings and pictures of white people.
Right. His best friends were white.
Right. Richard Gabriel, a jury consultant for Simpson, wrote that more educated jurors with higher incomes were more likely to accept the validity of DNA evidence and the argument that domestic violence is a prelude to murder.
See, I'm not too sure of that.
Why? That's the dumbest thing. You don't have to be educated to know
Right.
what DNA evidence would provide. That sounds really racist. Gabriel noted that African Americans were far more likely than other minorities to be receptive to claims of racially motivated fraud by the police. That's probably true.
Of course, it's true.
And I'm sure that old Johnny Cochran's going to exploit some racial shit coming up.
That. I mean, come on. OJ ain't paying the big bucks for nothing. Mm-hmm. October 1994. Judge Lance Ito started interviewing 304 prospective jurors.
Damn.
Each of whom had to fill out a 75-page questionnaire.
Damn. I would have been like, dude,
all right,
I'm racist. I'm not filling out a 75-page questionnaire. I don't know, though.
And big letters on the front, I'm racist.
One of the biggest trials in history. I guess I actually probably would have. It would have been like awesome to be a part of, to be honest.
November 3rd, 12 jurors were seated with 12 alternates. Over the course of the trial, 10 were dismissed for a wide variety of reasons.
Jeez.
Only 4 of the original jurors remained on the final panel. According to media reports...
I hope the alternatives get to actually sit in, though, and hear all the evidence, right?
Yeah. They have to sit in and at least be caught up on a case, right?
I would assume so, hopefully.
According to the media reports, the prosecutor, Clark, what's her name, Marcia Clark, believed women, regardless of race, would sympathize with the domestic violence aspect of the case and connect with Brown personally.
Maybe.
See, man, you can't do that. Then you got a biased jury. I never liked that.
Doesn't matter what you do.
Right. It's always going to be.
It has to be unanimous anyway. So,
right, it's true.
On the other hand, the defense's research suggested that black women would not be sympathetic to Brown, who was white. We all know how black chicks feel about their dudes dating white chicks.
Right.
Which it says because tensions with interracial marriages.
Right.
Both sides accepted a disproportionate number of female jurors from an original jury pool of 40% white, 28% black, 17% Hispanic, and 15% Asian. Final jury for the trial had 10 women and 2 men. Wow.
Oh.
They were trying to stack it against them, too. Of whom 9 were black, 2 white, and 1 Hispanic.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, April 5th, 1995. Juror Jeanette Harris was dismissed when Judge Ito learned she had failed to disclose an incident of domestic abuse.
Oh,
you can't lie.
You can't
man.
do that.
You can't, because then you're definitely biased. Because then your own stuff's gonna start playing back in your head. And
Wouldn't they have background checked her?
That's probably how they got it. Afterwards, Harris gave.
But why would she have been selected?
Well, they
in the first place,
they probably didn't know. They probably didn't give a background into all that yet. That's why they should do backgrounds like tremendously before.
Well, on the 12 you're gonna select,
right.
Do it right there.
Did we do a background check on her? Oh, no, we didn't. Let's check it out. Oh, guess what, guys?
She got tossed around by her husband in 1991.
She got her ass beat a couple times. Can't have her on here. Well, Harris gave an interview, accused the deputies of racism, and claimed the jurors were dividing themselves along racial lines. Okay. Ito then met with the jurors, who all denied Harris's allegations of racial tension among themselves. I mean, there were 9 black, a couple Hispanic, and Asian, right?
2 white, 1
Okay.
Hispanic.
I mean, I think they're all in there together with each other, right? Especially women, no matter what color of the year.
And there were 10 women, right?
Right. They're all together. The following day, Ito dismissed the 3 deputies anyway.
I mean, you got to. In the case is high profile, man, you got to take all precautions.
Right. Which upset the jurors that did not complain because the dismissal appeared to lend credence to Harris's allegations, which they all denied.
Yeah, but like I said,
it
you
doesn't matter.
You got to do
Once
it
there's
anyways, man.
once there's
can't have any cloud hanging over
anything.
this at all.
You knew this from the beginning. You still let him.
See, this makes me believe that Ito thinks OJ is going to be guilty already.
Why wouldn't you?
He's not. Well, right. He's not expecting what's about to happen, so he's doing anything he can to try to be like, "Oh, this was biased."
Right. Make it as fair as possible. Yeah, he didn't see any evidence. He's like, "Yeah, this motherfucker's guilty." After like day 50, he's like, "How is this trial still going on?" 134.
Well, you still have to let them present their cases,
right? But I mean, come on.
April 21st, 13 of the 18 jurors refused to come to court until they spoke with Ito about the incident. Ito then ordered them to court, and the 13 protesters responded by wearing all black and refusing to come out to the jury box upon arrival. The media
Really?
described this incident as a jury revolt.
I don't remember this.
Me neither. And the protesters wearing all black, resembling a funeral procession.
Really? So instantly, you got
tensions already before the trial even
with
starts.
the jurors.
Dude.
The judge even seems to be kind of, why are we doing this?
So now you got these jurors not trusting the legal system already.
Right.
So,
And Marsha Clark's already Marsha Clark.
right.
The 2 lead prosecutors were Deputy District Attorneys Marsha Clark and Christopher Darden. Clark was designated as the lead prosecutor, and Darden became Clark's co-counsel. Prosecutors Hank Goldberg and William Hodgman, who had successfully prosecuted high-profile cases in the past, assisted Clark and Darden. So these guys got some major guys up here.
Hey, man, they brought all the high guys out.
2 prosecutors were DNA experts, Rockne Harmon and George Woody Clark, were brought in to present the DNA evidence in the case, and were assisted by prosecutor Lisa Kahn.
They got everybody.
I mean, you got
over there.
everybody.
Well, I mean, Simpson's team did have like
Right.
7 people too.
They had all
So.
the crooked defense lawyer.
The prosecution argued that the domestic violence within the Simpson-Brown marriage culminated in her murder, obviously. Simpson's history of abusing Brown resulted in their divorce and him pleading guilty to 1 count of domestic violence in 1989. On the night of the murder, Simpson attended a dance recital for his daughter, which we know, and was reportedly angry with Brown because of a black dress that she wore, which he said was tight.
Oh, no.
Simpson's then-girlfriend, Paula Barbary, wanted to attend the recital with Simpson, but he did not invite her. He was like, I'm going with my family.
Right.
Pretty much, I bet you. He was like, we're going to,
no, that's my daughter.
We're going to reconcile.
Yeah.
After the recital, Simpson returned home to a voicemail from Barbary ending their relationship.
If you can't trust me around, you can't take me around.
You still want that bitch.
You've been with me all the time. I still haven't met your daughter and blah, 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 blah. Man, I don't know.
Oh, so are they trying to say that pissed him off?
I bet it probably did. According to the prosecution, Simpson then drove over to Brown's home in his Ford Bronco to reconcile their relationship as a result. And when Brown refused, Simpson moited her in a final act of control. Goldman then came upon the scene to return some eyeglasses and was murdered as well in order to silence him and remove any witnesses. Afterwards, the prosecution said that Simpson walked into his Bronco. Well, he walked to his Bronco. I'm sure he walked into it.
Stepped into it.
Right. And drove home, where he parked it and walked into his house. Well, he snuck into his house because the limo driver was out front.
Well, the limo driver said that he saw him go in, or a dark figure that looked like his body size.
Right.
There, he took off his blood-stained clothes, put them in the knapsack. Except his sock and the glove. Put clean ones on and left towards the limousine.
Why would not put his socks in the knapsack?
Well, the glove was found by the guest house. I don't know about the socks.
I don't see how.
At the airport, prosecution said that Simpson opened the knapsack, removed the clothes, Bruno Magley shoes, and the murder weapon, and threw them in the trash before putting the knapsack in one of his suitcases and headed towards his flight. I guess we probably will get in that.
Right.
Did they ever get the prints of the shoes?
All right.
That's how they know they were Bruno Magley's? And how do we know that he owned them?
Right. I don't know.
Well, I guess we're going to come. See, this is what people.
I don't even know if they ever found the stuff in the airport garbage.
That's what they're theorizing right here.
Well, the prosecution opened its case by calling LAPD 911 dispatcher Sharon Gilbert. They played a 4-minute 911 call from Brown on January 1st, 1989, in which he expressed fear that Simpson would physically harm her.
You think they save all 911 calls for that, or is it like just domestic violence ones and stuff? Or like
anything
criminal ones
into a crime.
Right.
Yeah. Simpson said that, Brown said that Simpson would physically harm her. And Simpson himself is even heard in the background yelling at her and possibly hitting her as well. Oh, you know it. The officer who responded to that call, Detective John Edwards, testified next that when he arrived, a severely beaten Brown ran from the bushes where she was hiding.
Jeez.
And to the detective screaming, "He's going to kill me! He's going to kill me!" referring to OJ.
Okay.
He was like, "Ma'am, you're 6 years too early."
Not yet. Just hold on. Pictures of Brown's face from that night were then shown to the jury to confirm his testimony.
We're trying to rush things.
Getting a little ahead of yourself, man. That's messed up. Man. That incident led to Simpson's arrest and eventual pleading of no contest to one count of domestic violence, for which he received probation for 1 year. Of course he did.
Right.
He's OJ.
Right.
LAPD officer and longtime
How long
friend
has he been out of the NFL by then? Early 80s?
Probably the early 80s, yeah.
Right. So a couple years now? Oh, he was already making Naked Gun movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 89.
Right. Funny, and I don't care.
That's all right.
He played a good stupid guy.
When he backs up against a telephone pole and can't get out. It's good stuff. LAPD officer and longtime friend of both Simpson and Brown, Ron Shipp, testified on February 1st, 1995 that Simpson told him the day after the murders that he did not want to take a polygraph that was offered him by police because he said, "I've had a lot of dreams about killing her. I really don't know about taking that thing."
I mean, if you're having dreams, right? But I mean, that's still in your mind. I mean,
yeah, but they can ask him if have you ever dreamed of killing her or thought about killing her.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't help him, obviously, but they can also ask, did you kill her? And he could pass that part.
You or could not.
It's not admissible in court anyways.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the lie detectors are garbage.
Easily falsify and pass, or easily be telling the truth, and it says you're not.
And it says you're not, yeah. The jury dismissed Shipp's claims after defense attorney Carl E. Douglas accused him of being an alcoholic who was testifying against Simpson because he wanted to promote his acting career.
Of course.
Oh, jeez. We're in California, guys. This guy had a great idea. He's like, "This is my big break, Mama. Mama, this is my big break. Watch me on court TV." That's probably the only time he's ever been
That's
on TV.
when he was acting, too.
Right.
On court TV.
And it was terrible. The prosecution then called Brown's sister to the witness stand. She tearfully testified to many episodes of domestic violence in the 1980s. I bet she did.
I'm sure.
When she saw Simpson pick up his wife and hurl her against a wall, then physically throw her out of their house during an argument.
Where's the family going? And she don't have brothers or what?
Right.
She also testified Simpson was agitated with Brown the night of their daughter's dance recital as well, the same night as the murders. Although a home videotape taken immediately after the dance recital showed a cheerful Simpson being given a kiss by Brown's sister. Oh, Cato Kaline corroborated Brown's sister's claim that Simpson was upset with Brown because of the black dress she wore, which he said was tight.
I mean, I can see, like, at the recital, Simpson...
Of course, they're all going to be...
leaning into Brown's ear and be like,
"What'd you wear that dress for, you little whore?"
Right. And her sister comes in, and he's like, "Hey!
Yeah, good to see you. Right, of course.
Right, yeah,
Obviously. Everybody, come on.
I mean, it's
not hard to believe right there at all.
Right.
Well, prosecution planned to present 62 separate incidents of domestic violence, including 3 previously unknown incidents Brown had documented in several letters she had written and placed in a bank safety deposit box.
Oh, shit.
Judge Ito denied the defense's motion to suppress the incidents of domestic violence. Why would you? It's kind of like the whole case here. But only allowed witnessed accounts to be presented to the jury because of Simpson's Sixth Amendment rights. You can't accuse somebody of doing something if you have no evidence.
Right.
I think that's what Sixth Amendment is. Sixth Amendment grants criminal defendants the right to speedy and public trial by impartial jury consisting of jurors. Oh, so they're not impartial. Right. Jurors must be unbiased. Okay, so unbiased jurors. So they're trying to spin shit of domestic violence and claiming he did 62 even though they don't have evidence for it. Right.
I mean, you can bring it up in trial, but be like, hey.
It could always be objection.
Right, objection, yeah. Sustained or overruled. Sit down, counsel. I'm not going to tell you again. The letters Brown had written and the statements she made to friends and family were ruled inadmissible as hearsay.
Yes.
Because Brown was dead and unable to cross-examine. I mean, it's true.
I mean, right. She can say anything and anybody can write something.
Right. Despite this prosecution...
Even though they're probably 100% true.
Right. Despite this, the prosecution had witnesses for 44 separate incidents they planned to present to the jury. However, the prosecution dropped the domestic violence portion of their case on the 20th of June, 1995.
Why?
Marcia Clark stated it was because they believed the DNA evidence against Simpson was insurmountable.
That could have been the mistake right
She's
there.
like, we don't even need this because, I mean, it wasn't a mistake. It's clearly, in any other trial, that would have been 100% convictable evidence.
Anybody else would have been in life right now, prison for life right now.
But the media speculated it was because of the comments made by dismissed juror Jeanette Harris. Here we go, back to Harris again. This lady's causing all kinds of turmoil.
Well, it's the media, first of all.
Right. Well, it's her, though. For bringing it up in the first place.
That's a little fishy. I don't know why
it might have been the media that got to her, I bet.
Right. I don't know why they would drop the whole premises of what they founded their case on. Well, besides the murder, I mean, you have to have a reasonable doubt why he did it to lead people that he did it. The domestic violence was the perfect thing.
Right. That's the only thing.
Well, they had blood. His blood was everywhere.
Clearly, that wasn't enough.
I guess not. Christopher Darden later confirmed that to be true. Okay, so it was from Harris.
Was it?
Yeah, Harris was dismissed on April 6th because she failed to disclose that she was a victim of domestic violence from her ex-husband. Right. But afterwards, Harris gave an interview and called the evidence of Simpson's abuse of Brown a whole lot of nothing, and also said that doesn't mean he is guilty of murder. So she would see her domestic violence wasn't even swaying that he murdered her.
Right.
Wow, this dismissal.
She said that's a whole lot of nothing, and that doesn't mean he's guilty of murder.
This dismissal of Simpson's abusive behavior from a female juror who was also a victim of such abuse by her own husband convinced the prosecution that the jury was not receptive to the domestic violence
towards Simpson. Probably
no. They're saying even though she was the victim of domestic abuse, she still wasn't buying that he actually murdered her.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She was
and they're not convinced that the whole jury would be either. So they were like, "Yeah, let's drop that."
Right, and then she's gonna be like, "Well, listen here, my guy's been beating me for 50 years, and I'm still here.
he fathered me 3 children.
He's a great dad. I'll never let anybody talk down about him." After the verdict, the jurors called the domestic violence portion of the case a waste of time.
Oh, so even the jurors agreed with it then. Well,
Shapiro, Dershowitz, and Ullman later admitted they believed that race played a factor in the jurors' dismissal of Brown's abuse by Simpson. The defense retained renowned advocate for victims of domestic abuse, Dr. Lenore E. Walker. Cochran said that she would testify that Simpson does not fit the profile of an abuser that would murder his spouse.
I guess there's a profile of abusers who would murder and wouldn't.
He may be controlling. He may
punch her in the face a couple times.
He has so much love, and there's anger because he had never had a father growing up. I don't know if that's true.
Well, Walker's colleagues were appalled by her decision to defend Simpson and accuse her of betraying her advocacy for $2,500 or $250,000 retainer.
Oh,
that could be it.
I mean, $250,000 back in 1995, a lot of money.
Well, Walker was dropped from the witness list for quote unquote tactical reasons after she submitted her report on the case. In it, she opines that the statistic from Dershowitz that of the 2 million incidents of abuse per year, only 2,000 victims are actually murdered by their spouses as being misleading because Brown was already dead.
I mean, just to say only, I mean, that's 2,000 out of a million. That's what, 0.2%, 0.02% or some shit? 0.2%. It's a lot. 2,000 victims out of 2 million.
It's not a lot at all.
It's still a lot.
It's too many, obviously, but not a lot in the scope of numbers.
No, if they want, that's why they like to use numbers.
And
that's why they like to use numbers.
And she's saying it's misleading because in this case, the victim is dead already. So what happened? She's one of the 2,000 victims, supposedly,
right?
Allegedly,
right? Wow, that's a dirty one, but yet arguable stat.
She did some greasy shit. Took a $250,000 payday to defend Simpson, but then went back on it and said, "Well, actually, that's kind of misleading."
Well, this is what they do, man.
Obviously, dude. That's why the whole justice system is fucked.
It's garbage. You can get off by, relatively speaking, not admissible. What do you mean not admissible? How is anything not admissible in court? I don't care. Unless it's illegally videotaping or recording. Because that is illegal.
Sometimes.
But nothing should be admissible. I don't care. I don't care.
Inadmissible.
Yeah, admissible. Yeah, everything's admissible. Nothing's inadmissible. Because how? I don't get it. I don't care.
Yeah, because there's always the topic of relevance. You can't just be like, oh, I saw him yell at an old lady at a grocery store, so he had to have been a violent murderer. That's inadmissible.
Well, that's not even
stupid.
Evidence.
Well, I mean,
that's an inadmissible opinion. That's a stupid opinion where the judge can be like, jurors.
Exactly. That's called hearsay.
Disregard everything you just heard the past 2 hours.
Right. Which I don't know how you see that. I've always been boggled about that too. Like, how is a juror supposed to just disregard what they've heard?
Right. Just because that judge said, don't worry about what that guy said.
That's the reason why jurors take 3-4 days to do a thing, because they're going over all the evidence.
Like, well, you remember that lady that was up, but you remember?
Yeah, but you remember we can't use it.
We can't use it.
So take that part out. Then what do we believe here?
Yeah, but still, how many people really are gonna take that part out when they make their decision?
Well,
that's the thing. They shouldn't even allow to hear it. They shouldn't be allowed to even continue. Actually, a detailed presentation should be given to the judge.
That always is. The judge is always informed beforehand on evidence introduced.
Well, then those ones shouldn't even take place. That's bullshit that he allows those to even take place. Just know he's going to be like...
Yeah, but sometimes they spring up some new shit, and then the judge...
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it, right.
But you better stay on track, mister. Anyhow... The relevant statistic was, of the murdered spouses who were also victims of abuse, what percentage of them were murdered by their current or ex-husband? When she reported that the number was 80.3%, they dropped her from the witness list. Of the murdered spouses who were also victims.
Of the murdered spouses who were also victims of abuse, what percent of them were murdered by their current or ex-husband? It was 80%. I believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes perfectly sense. And the house at only 2,000.
But it doesn't
if she said 2,000 out of 2 million.
2,000 out of 2 million incidents. Well, that was Dershowitz that said that. 2 million incidents of abuse per year, only 2,000 victims are actually murdered by their spouses. As being misleading.
But it says of the murdered spouses, though. So now you got to go to the murdered spouses. So that's 2,000. Go down again. So of the murdered spouses who were also victims of abuse, what percentage of them were murdered by their current or ex? Okay. So what out of the 2,000 that were dead, how many prior?
How many of those 2,000 were murdered by their spouses?
Right.
I don't think that's 2 million incidents of abuse per year. 2,000 victims are actually murdered by their spouses. Of the murdered spouses who are victims of abuse, so the victims of abuse would still be 2 million. 'Cause 2,000 of those 2 million are murdered.
All right, yeah, that don't make no damn
What
sense.
percentage of them are murdered by? So she's saying Dershowitz's stats not real.
Right, yeah,
Apparently.
it's garbage.
Right.
Right. So they dropped her from the witness list after that.
After she said 80%, they were like, yeah, you got to go.
Right. From his 0.2% to your 80%.
Right.
That's a big difference. Now, if it was like 75 to 80, I mean, we can talk. I mean, you're 80.1% higher than him. What? The revelation of OJ's abuse of Brown is credited with turning public opinion against him. The public shock at the reason why Walker was dropped from the defense witness list is credited with transforming public opinion on spousal abuse from a private familial matter to a serious public health issue. All right, so I mean, I get it. No, I agree with the private family matter, right? Whatever happens inside your home is
What are you
private.
talking about? Before this trial, most of the public perceived domestic abuse as a private familial matter instead of a public
Right.
health issue that it is.
Right. Right.
So now it magnifies all the domestic abuse cases that actually end in murder and serious
Right.
other
I'm saying
stuff.
It should still be, as I said, it should still be like that. Up until then,
Nobody really gave it a second thought.
Right.
Now, well, you
it was
know,
wildly-
it's in their own home. We can't tell people what to do.
And it's been like that for years. I mean, come on, we all know 50s and 60s. Watch 50s and 60s movies. They basically beating their wives on the television shows and the movies.
Obviously. You could smack your wife and
Lucy! And he's like got a fist up their face.
You could
Lucy!
you could smack your wife in public and nobody would do a damn thing about it.
Right.
Well, L.A. County Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Lakshmanan Satyavagaswaran testified on June 14th, 1995 that
We
Brown's
murdered that name. We
Yeah.
just lost a listener.
Right. That Brown's time of death was estimated as between 10 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Cato Kalin testified on March 22nd, 95 that he last saw Simpson at 9:36 p.m. that evening. Awfully Pacific. Or Pacific, what am I, Ricky from fucking Trailer Park Boys? Awfully specific. I'm sorry, I don't care. I would be the worst witness and I would be the worst anything if I was on trial. I don't remember specific 9:36.
No,
I
I'd
don't
be
know,
like-
around 9:30.
Be like, what time? I'll ask them, what time was the recital over? They'll be like, it was over at this time, and we know OJ left at this time. He goes, well, between this and this. That's what I would say. Between this time and that
I'm saying
time,
Cato, though.
Right,
I saw him at exactly the
9:30.
last time I saw him was 9:36.
approximately 9:36. And how you know that? Well, I always look at my watch.
Right. Well, whatever. Simpson was not seen again until 10:54 p.m. when he answered the intercom at the front door for the limousine
I
driver
don't get-
Alan Park.
There's no, I mean, maybe the limo driver did know exactly what time it was because he's been waiting.
Well, of course he does. He's
Right.
probably been looking at his watch the whole time.
Every minute seemed like a year, so he knows what 10:50. He know what he did
Right.
that whole 10:54 from 10:53 to.
Cato, well, he arrived at the residence at like 10:20 something, so
Right.
he's probably been looking at his watch every minute, so he knew exactly what time.
Right.
As far as Cato, though, what is he documenting everything in his life? 9:36 and 34 seconds.
And he probably sits.
hell outta
He
here,
probably
Cato.
sits next to the window, facing OJ's house, waiting for him to come home every night.
That's true. Wagging his tail.
Oh, he didn't stop by, and he just sits there and waits. And he knows if OJ leaves the porch light on, he can come over. Simpson had no alibi for approximately 1 hour and 18 minutes during which time the murders took place. Alan Park testified on 28th of March, 1995, that he arrived at Simpson's home at 10:25 p.m. on the night of the Moitus and stopped at Rockingham entrance. Simpson's Bronco was not there. He then drove
Which
over.
he said that
Right,
he
he
knew
drove over.
because of the he saw the street number,
Right.
and then the cops found his Bronco at the street number that Alan Park would have had to look at when he got there.
Yeah, but he has two different entrances to his house here.
Yeah, but it was at the Rockingham entrance. That's
Right.
where the Bronco was found.
Right. Okay, and he tells he drove up to Rockingham at first. Simpson's Bronco wasn't there. Then he drove over to the Ashford entrance and rang the intercom 3 times, getting no answer. This was started at 10:40 p.m. So he's sitting there from
Took him
10:40.
15 minutes to go over to the other entrance.
All right.
At approximately 10:50 p.m., he said he saw a tall African-American shadowy figure. I don't know how he would determine he's African-American if it's a shadowy figure, but
Right.
it said he resembled Simpson.
Could have been Kalen.
He approached the front door before boarding towards the southern walkway that leads to Kalen's bungalow. This is where he supposedly dropped the glove. Park's testimony was significant because it explained the location of the glove found at Simpson's home.
Right.
The blood trail from the Bronco to the front door was easily understood, but the glove was found
door of the house or to Cato
to his house. That was easily understood, but the glove was found on the other side of the house.
Right.
Park said the shadowy figure initially approached the front door before heading down the southern walkway, which leads to where the glove was found by Furman. So there's no blood trail. So if there's a blood trail from the Bronco to the front door of the house, was there a blood trail to from the front to going over to the bungalow? Right, that's what I'm saying, where the glove was found.
The prosecution believed that Simpson had driven his Bronco to and from Brown's home to commit the moitas. Saw that Park was there and aborted his attempt to enter through the front door and tried to enter through the back instead, over back at Rockingham where the guy was at in the first place. He panicked, made the sounds that Caitlin heard when he realized that security system would not let him enter through the rear entrance.
Well, because, he only owns a house. Don't see why it wouldn't, but...
That don't make no sense there. He then discarded the glove, came back, and went through the front... no.
That's got to be the dumbest criminal in the world to discard the glove on your property.
No, glove. He knew he had two.
Well, the other one was at the scene.
Right. Why would he leave that?
And why would he leave the other one that could convict him
on his lawn?
Right. I mean, come on, guys.
That sounds like a setup.
Not right.
And now it sounds like a
This
setup.
is not sounding very plausible to me. I don't care.
Right now, no. At first, when we heard the first episode, all the evidence and all this, I'm like, man, there's a glove in his yard.
But he had the time. But he had it in his right mind to put all his other clothes in a knapsack. But conveniently, he would go dispose of the glove.
It just drop a glove outside Cato Caitlin.
Go all the way back to the bungalow to do that too, right?
Get that.
I don't know. Well, during cross-examination, Park conceded that he could not identify the figure, but said he saw that person enter the front door, and afterwards Simpson answered and said he was home alone. Park conceded that he did not notice any cuts on Simpson's left hand, but added, "I shook his right hand, not his left." Okay, well, now this guy's saying that dude went in the house, but Simpson... Well, how do you know Simpson was home?
He didn't go in the house. He probably was standing outside the limo and shook his hand while
he said
opened
the shadowy figure went in the house.
Right.
But Simpson said he was home alone.
Right.
So, I don't know. I would hate to be a juror on this case already.
The prosecution presented a total of 108 exhibits, including 61 drops of blood and DNA evidence allegedly linking Simpson to the moitas. With no witnesses to the crime, the prosecution was dependent on DNA as the only physical evidence linking Simpson to the crime. I mean, DNA is DNA, right?
Right.
Or is that still questionable?
No.
The volume of DNA evidence in this case was unique, and the prosecution believed they could reconstruct how the crime was committed with enough accuracy to resemble an eyewitness account.
Resemble? Well, Marsha Clark stated in her opening statements that there was a trail of blood from the Bundy crime scene through Simpson's Ford Bronco to his bedroom at Rockingham. And it's all through the house, too, huh? She said, first of all, Simpson's DNA found on blood drops next to the bloody footprints near the victims at the Bundy's crime scene. Probability of error was 1 in 9.7 billion. So they found his blood at the crime scene. Simpson's DNA
blood next to bloody footprints near the victims at the Bundy crime scene.
At Nicole's house.
Wow.
Simpson's DNA was found on a trail of blood drops leading away from the victims, towards and on the back gate at Bundy. Probability of error was 1 in 200.
Wow, that's actually quite small.
Well, yeah, the first one was 9.7 billion, though.
Right.
Simpson, Goldman, and Brown's DNA found on the blood outside of the door and inside Simpson's... Whoa. All three of them were on the door and inside Simpson's Bronco. Probability of error was 1 in 21 billion.
Right.
Simpson's DNA found on blood drops leading from the area where his Bronco was parked at Simpson's Rockingham home to the front door entrance. Simpson, Brown, and Goldman's DNA on a bloody glove found behind his home. Simpson and Brown's DNA found on blood on a pair of socks in Simpson's bedroom. Conveniently, he just leaves them in the bedroom, but took all his other clothes in the knapsack. Probability of error was 1 in 6.8 billion.
I mean, that's some evidence.
How about that? As soon as she said all that,
Right. That's some evidence right there.
OJ, you're getting cuffed and you're in jail, dude.
I mean, the trial should be over by then.
Yeah.
The defense should be like, we rest our case. Or whatever.
The jury should be like, yeah, guilty.
Right. And the judge should be like, yep.
You
You guys don't even
You got to
need
know
be-
deliberation
I
here.
don't even need to hear juries. Juries just shake your head.
Wow.
Even OJ's like,
Wow. How do you... I don't know. I guess we can go conspiracy theories and elaborate cover-up. Somebody could have got a hold of OJ's blood and dropped it at the scene, but, I mean...
Is it legal for OJ, once that happened, once he got released and walked down the steps and all the press was there, and he'd be like, guess what, y'all? I just got away with murder.
I don't think you can charge for the same crime.
Right. He can walk down the steps. I just got away with murder. I just got away with murder. I'm just saying. What do you say? Hello, Twitter fan. How do you do it?
Hello, Twitter world.
Usual. What's he say?
It's me, yours truly.
Yeah, George Truly.
George Truly.
He was George Truly.
It's yours truly.
The press is like, yeah, you did.
They're all like from fucking Little Nicky when they take over the fucking priest. Yeah. He's like, let the sin begin, and everybody's like, dancing in the church.
And you got Harvey Levin in the back. I'm a lawyer. I don't know. LAPD criminalist and hair fiber expert Susan Brockbank testified on the 27th of June, 1995. An FBI special agent and fiber expert Doug Diedrich testified on the 29th of June to the following findings.
Uh-oh.
The fibers from the glove found at Simpson's home microscopically match the one found at the crime scene, proving they were each other's mate. Both of the victims, the two gloves, and the blue knit cap worn by the killer had hair consistent with Simpson. Wow. The hair in the blue knit cap worn by the killer was embedded in the seams, indicating it was there from being worn repeatedly. So he wore this hat more than once, which is a mistake. Dark blue cotton clothing fibers were found on both victims. The video from the dance recital that Simpson attended earlier that night shows him wearing a similarly colored shirt. Kato Kalin testified that Simpson was still wearing that shirt when they got McDonald's, or was it Burger King?
Right.
But not anymore when he answered the door for the limousine driver.
Of course it would change.
Right. He's flying to Chicago.
Right.
The police searched his home, but the shirt was never found.
So he didn't have any other blue shirt.
The glove
in his
was
house?
found.
Right. And the socks.
And the hat was found.
And the socks.
And the socks.
In his bedroom, nonetheless. When he packed everything out.
But he got rid of the shirt.
Right. And he didn't have any other similarly colored shirt in his closet.
That was the only shirt he... Wow.
Hair consistent with Goldman was found on Brown, and clothing fibers consistent with Brown was found on Goldman.
That makes sense. They're lovers.
Well, they're also stating that the murderer had contact with both of them.
Right.
This supported the prosecution's theory that the assailant killed Brown first, then Goldman, and afterwards returned to Brown to cut her throat. Ooh. The hair consistent with Brown that was found on the Rockingham glove was torn, which also supports the prosecution claim that the killer grabbed Brown by her hair to cut her throat.
Yeah.
Fibers that were only used in the 1993-1994 model year Ford Bronco, same car that Simpson owns, were found on both victims, the knit cap, and on both gloves. Dude, that is so crazy that they can just pinpoint that shit.
All right, get that fiber off the...
So dumb. The glove found at Simpson's home that belonged... They're telling me there's no other fibers in the world that was used in a Ford Bronco that was, like, exclusive to Ford. Well, they got, like, their own special fibers made.
That year...
Nothing else in Ford.
That year, Bronco in the color blue... I mean,
come on,
the
dude.
Seats.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on. Like, there was no other fibers.
Clearly there were, right?
The glove found at Simpson's home that belonged to the murderer had hair and clothing fibers consistent with Simpson, Brown, and Goldman, as well as fibers from a 93-94 Ford Bronco and Brown's Akita dog.
Okay.
So he has...
So he pet the dog first?
Or he threw it out of the way because it was barking and shit, remember?
Right. Wow.
Well, that's a lot of evidence.
I mean,
against this guy.
If they can get evidence from a freaking Ford Bronco to the specific year and model and all that, Simpson's known to be at this home for many times, so maybe it is his DNA just floating around everywhere all the time. Right?
Why would it be on Goldman, though?
Well, he'd seen him at the restaurant.
No, he didn't go to the restaurant with him, remember?
Oh, that's right. Oh, Simpson's DNA's there anyway. The DNA just goes around, right?
Not fibers. You got to, like, physically come in contact.
Maybe they did. 19th of June, 1995.
Oh, okay. Here's my answer to the shoe print stuff.
FBI shoe print expert William J. Boziak testified that the bloody shoe prints found at the crime scene and inside Simpson's Bronco were made from a rare and expensive pair of Bruno Magli Italian shoes. Probably said that name wrong, but I don't care. He determined the shoes were a size 12. Tell me O.J. Simpson only had a size 12.
It's not like he was a running back. He wasn't tall.
He was running back.
He was a running back. Not like he's tall. Probably like 6'1".
Well, it was the same size that OJ wore. And are only sold at Bloomingdale's. Only 29 pairs of that size were sold in the United States. And one of them, guess what, guys? You guessed it. They were sold at the same store to...
Well, we don't know they were sold to Simpson, but...
Tupac Shakur. What? Well, anyway, he determined the shoes were a size 12, the same size that OJ wore.
Yes, sir.
And are only sold at Bloomingdale's. Only 29 pairs of that size were sold in the United States, and one of them was sold at the same store that Simpson often buys his shoes from.
Okay.
Bodziak also testified, despite 2 sets of footprints at the crime scene, only one attacker was present because they were all made by the same shoes.
Two
So
sets.
there was no other footprints?
There was 2 sets of footprints at the crime scene.
Despite 2 sets of
Only
footprints.
one attacker was present because they were all made by the same shoes. Oh, there was only 2 sets of footprints. One that was leading away to the gate or whatever, and then one right by the bodies.
What about all the other footprints?
There was none. There was only 2.
And you tell me Goldman and Brown just
Well,
floating
they
around?
weren't walking in their own blood.
They're flowing.
Well, she was barefoot and she didn't have blood on her heels. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
During cross-examination, Bailey suggested the murderer deliberately wore shoes that were the wrong size, which Bodziak dismissed as ridiculous. Simpson denied ever owning a pair of those ugly-ass shoes.
How are they wrong size? And that same size that OJ wore? Isn't that what you just said?
They're saying they wore the size of OJ on purpose.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Well, couldn't you determine that?
No.
If they were bigger for your feet, they would leave they wouldn't leave
Right.
as much of an indent on the front part because you wouldn't have no pressure on them, right? Because there's no toes there.
Well, your toes are scrunched up like a motherfucker.
Or if they were too small, that's
Too
what I'm saying.
much,
Then you had an 8-foot guy fucking wearing them that were a size 15.
There's no way you're putting your foot in.
That's what I'm saying. You had to be too big for the guy,
Or he could
if
be
that's what
too-
they're saying,
right, too big,
and they wouldn't
yeah.
leave a good,
Right.
good imprint in the
Too-
front.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. It's like, yeah, I get it.
Well, Simpson denied. He said, "I never owned those pair of shoes. In fact, those are some ugly ass
What
shoes."
he said, yeah, that's what he said.
And there was only one circumstantial evidence he did, which was that Bloomingdale's employee, Samuel Poser, anyways, testified he remembered showing Simpson those shoes, but there was no store record of him purchasing them. I'm sure he has an account there. Although the prosecution could not prove that Simpson owned a pair of those shoes, Bodziak testified that a similar bloody shoe print was left on the floor inside Simpson's Bronco.
It's similar though.
But was it the one?
It wasn't the exact. I mean, if you can get the exact fiber from that, from his freaking driver's seat that was placed on the bodies, you can't tell me that shoe print isn't
Right.
the exact. That's the
There's only
exact
26 of them
Right.
sold in that size.
29.
Whatever.
Scheck suggested that Furman broke into the Bronco, left the footprint there.
So now they're accusing the
Right.
the police of some shit here.
Fabricating evidence, huh?
Right.
He produced a photo of Furman walking through a puddle of blood.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that, Furman.
Oh, wait a minute here. Was he wearing those shoes, though?
Right.
If
Like,
the-
what would that do anything?
Right. If he had those same shoes on in the photo, then you have a thing. But if he was
Okay,
wearing
so
some
here we
Nikes,
go. All right, read.
Bodziak admitted that he was not able to confirm that the shoe print in the car definitely came from a Bruno Magli shoe, but dismissed Scheck's claim because none of the shoe prints at the crime scene were made by Furman shoes. Okay. Making it unlikely he could have made a bloody shoe print in the Bronco. But yeah, that's what we know of.
Did they examine Furman's shoes? Apparently, they must have.
Well, he has a photo of him walking in the blood, so how there's no prints of his? If he had, did he?
If they have a photo of him walking in the blood, there should be photos of his footprints
everywhere,
Right.
unless he stopped right there and took his shoe off, right?
Right.
Unless he was like, oh,
Okay, I like how just now we're getting to Simpson's defense lawyers. Because we've only been hearing the prosecution side right now.
Right. And it's kind of go back and forth. They got a shaky case still.
Yeah, some shit's not adding up here.
It's looking
I can understand why if the jurors are confused, because I'm confused as shit. Like,
right.
why is one thing here? Why did he put all of his clothes in the bag except for socks and a glove? And I mean, there's
Socks. He left the.
he left the socks on his bedroom
Not
floor.
to mention, he already knew he left a glove at the crime scene. So why would he knowingly drop a glove there,
and then leave his socks, but take everything
leave the
out.
socks, but not that blue shirt, not that precious blue shirt,
Or his pants.
or his pants,
Or the shoes.
But hey, the socks.
Even though he would have taken his socks off, most like, well, I don't know, they probably could have been black, but most likely you would. I mean, if you're getting rid of everything else, you're going to get rid of the freaking socks
Anything
too.
on you, you're getting rid of. I mean, come on. Get the hell out
Well,
of here.
as we all know, Simpson hired a team of high-profile defense lawyers, initially led by Robert Shapiro. That didn't last too long. Who was previously a civil lawyer known for settling,
Right.
and then subsequently by Johnny Cochran, who at that point was known for police brutality and civil rights cases.
Damn right he was.
He brought in the big boys. The team included noted defense attorney F. Lee Bailey, Robert Kardashian, Harvard appeals lawyer Alan Dershowitz, his student Robert Blazier, and dean of Santa Clara University School of Law Gerald Euman. Nice little. Wonder if he was ever blackballed from Santa Clara after that, huh?
Dershowitz?
No.
Ewan?
Euman.
Probably not, because OJ is still loved by everybody. Assistant Cochran were Carl E. Douglas and Sean Hawley. Well, Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld were also hired. They headed the Innocence Project.
Innocence Project got a lot of innocent dudes out of jail.
Right. And specialized in DNA evidence.
Okay.
Simpson's defense was said to have costs between $3 million and $6 million, is more likely upwards towards the 6.
Yeah, definitely.
The media dubbed the group of talented attorneys the Dream Team.
I mean, you can't get any better defense attorneys than these guys do.
And when you name something the Dream Team, you're going to win
you
gold.
better win, right?
You're going to win gold. It's so sad that Isaiah Thomas is not a part of either of these
what are you
groups. Fucking Michael Jordan. While the taxpayer cost of prosecution was $9 million. So
For what? For what? It was $9 million for people that were already on the payroll anyways?
He spent less, and the prosecution spent way more. And they
But the prosecution, Marcia and all those, they're already employed.
right. So they spent $9 million extra dollars.
That's stupid, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
that's garbage.
that's not like fraud.
So that's like OJ laughing in place. He's laughing. He's like, dude, you guys spent $3 more million than me. And plus you have all the evidence.
Right. Right. The defense team's reasonable doubt theory was summarized as compromised, contaminated, corrupted in opening statements.
I mean,
They argued that the DNA evidence against Simpson was compromised by the mishandling of criminalist Dennis Fung and Andrea Mazzola during the collection phase of evidence gathering,
you
and
had
that
the guy stuck in a puddle of
100%.
blood.
And that 100% of the real killer's DNA had vanished from the evidence samples. How many cases have we seen fall apart because mishandled evidence, dude?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had that one detective that just walks through a puddle of blood.
Apparently, right.
Was he drunk? I mean, what's going on?
Stupid.
Especially with somebody like O.J. Simpson. That should have been. I mean, that's probably why they did it.
Right.
Any other time, they cross that off and freaking laser beams. They'll cut your ankle off if you go by blood. No, not with OJ. The evidence was then contaminated in an LAPD crime lab by criminalist Colin Yamauchi. And Simpson's DNA from his reference file was transferred to all but 3 exhibits. The remaining 3 exhibits were planted by the police and thus corrupted by police fraud.
Again, this is what the defense is saying.
Right. Can we believe that police fraud was happening in the mid 90s?
Well, we are just
In
2
LA.
2 years removed from the LA riots and shit. So.
The defense also questioned the timeline, claiming the murders happened around 11 p.m. that night. What would the coroner say, though?
He said between 10 and 10:30 she was murdered,
That's what the coroner said?
and OJ arrived back at 10:56. So they're placing him back and seen and getting into the limo before the murders take place. That's what they're saying.
Right.
Dr. Robert Huizinga testified on July 14th, 1995, that Simpson was not physically capable of carrying out the murders due to chronic arthritis and old football injuries. Well, I don't know about that. You're still a big dude.
Adrenaline's a bitch, guys.
During cross-examination, the prosecution they produced an exercise video that Simpson made a few weeks before the murders titled O.J. Simpson Minimum Maintenance, Fitness for Men, which demonstrated that Simpson was anything but frail.
Right.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have said that.
Right.
Dr. Huizinga admitted afterwards that Simpson could have committed the murders if he was in the throes of an adrenaline rush.
Obviously, he was. He probably snorted 15 lines of cocaine.
Well, we all know that, supposedly they went and... How come the drugs haven't been brought up? That they crystal meth that they supposedly
especially high on crystal
purchased.
meth. Arthritis is nothing.
Right.
You don't feel
I've seen
arthritis.
videos of people on crystal meth get tased by cops and just take the taser things off, right?
Yeah. Wow. This is a shit show already. Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist, testified that the moitus happened closer to 11 o'clock. Oh. which is when Simpson has an alibi.
Okay.
And stated that Brown was still conscious, standing, and took a step after her throat was cut. Okay, so all this time we've been led to believe that she's laying on the ground and he stepped on her back and lifted her head up. And this guy is saying no. She was standing.
But there was a boot print on her back.
Maybe he stepped on her back afterwards. And he also said
she was conscious, standing and took a step
after her throat was cut.
But they said that her feet didn't have blood on them.
Right. Well, they wouldn't have blood.
She's in a freaking pile of blood everywhere. Of course they would. How is she going to miss a pile of blood?
That's true. And that Goldman, which was the suspected lover, was standing and fighting his assailant for 10 minutes with a lacerated jugular vein. There's no way.
10 minutes?
10 minutes. Unless he was holding it with his hand. And he's trying
come on,
10
man. 10 minutes.
Now, right?
10 minutes. After the trial.
But they said there was no signs of struggle with Goldman.
No, they said he had defensive wounds, but it was
minor.
That they thought he was being choked and stabbed at the same time. So, do they have marks on his neck from being choked? That's what I want to know.
Choking himself, trying to keep the blood.
Mate.
I would be. I know. I'll be holding my neck as tight as hell.
Well, after the trial, Baden admitted that his claim of Goldman's long struggle was inaccurate. Oh, jeez. And that testifying for Simpson was a mistake.
Oh, jeez.
Critics claim that Baden knowingly gave false testimony in order to collect a $100,000 retainer.
Obviously.
Because the week before he testified, Dr. Gerdes admitted that Goldman's blood was in Simpson's Bronco, despite Goldman never having an opportunity within his lifetime to be in the Bronco.
Right.
Which is true.
Right.
Why would he be in OJ's Bronco?
Right.
Like he's going to invite this guy in.
He might have.
He was jealous of every guy that...
Maybe he did.
I doubt it.
Maybe he sat outside the Bronco and seen that guy go take a break while...
hey, come here, let me talk to you. If you're fucking with my wife, I'm going to kill you or something. Right. I don't know. It's all hearsay. It's all speculation. We don't know.
Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld argued that the results from DNA tests were not reliable because the police were sloppy.
I believe that 100%.
Right. They said that these guys were sloppy in collecting and preserving the evidence from the crime scene.
Well, if there's a picture of a cop standing in a puddle of blood, I mean, yeah.
Right. Fung and Mazzala did admit to making several mistakes during evidence collection, which included not always changing gloves between evidence items. Whoa, wait a minute here. Not always change. And while they package and storing evidence, oh my goodness.
Using plastic bags.
They didn't use plastic bags. They used paper bags.
No, they use plastic bags rather than them.
Why would they want
paper? Because plastic can smear and mess up the shit.
Paper just soaks it in.
All right.
So they used plastic bags rather than paper bags. They didn't change their gloves between cross evidence.
Wow.
And
the health department will shut a restaurant down for doing that between lettuce and tomatoes, and and they're not even changing it between blood samples.
And they stored them in a police van, which is in L.A., which is probably hot as hell, and it's supposed to be refrigerated for up to 7 hours after collection. Oh my!
How do you bungle that, dude? I don't.
They ruined the whole case right there.
Wow. Well, they argued would allow bacteria to degrade all of the real killer's DNA and thus make the samples more susceptible to cross-contamination in the LAPD crime lab.
Obviously.
The prosecution denied that the mistakes made by Fung and Mazzola changed the validity of the results.
They don't know. They don't know.
Right. They noted that all the evidence samples were testable and that most of the DNA testing was done at 2 consulting labs, not the LAPD crime lab where contamination supposedly happened.
No, contamination happened at the scene.
No, the defense argued that it happened at the crime lab of the LAPD. And they're arguing it was done at 2 other consulting labs.
Oh, wow. See, already there.
So it's just a shit show of he said, she said bullshit at this point.
Just saying that, knowing it was bullshit, though, like say it was bullshit, just saying that is it's doubt in the juror's mind.
Right.
Already.
Right.
Already.
Wow. When the other 2 already admitted that they
messed up. Right. We didn't change our gloves. Well, you telling me that you went from
one collection of samples with the same gloves?
Looks at the jurors for a second. How did you store those evidence when you got it? Did you put it in the refrigerated? No.
Well, it was the middle of July or June, and we just put it in the back of a police van for 7 hours.
You tell me you put the evidence in the
where
bag.
heat probably reached 105 degrees.
That's what the guy did on stand, too.
He felt like he was in the back of the police van.
Right. Oh, man.
Oh, geez,
wow.
dude.
Since all the samples in the consulting labs received were testable,
So they say.
while Scheck and Neufeld's theory predicted that they should have been inconclusive after being 100% degraded, the claim that all the DNA was lost to bacterial degradation was not credible. The prosecution denied that contamination happened in the LAPD crime lab as well, because the result would be a mixture of the real killer's DNA and Simpson's DNA, but the results showed that only Simpson's DNA was present.
Probably true.
Right, but still.
How right? I mean, but still, there would be some other type of DNA there.
Right, I'm going back to...
I'm on the prosecution side again.
Right.
Prosecution also noted
But
that
still, no, because you still got to go back to the mishandling of the evidence. That's
true.
I mean, that's a big thing for me right now.
that's grounds of a mistrial.
I would say.
The prosecution also noted the defense declined to challenge any of those results by testing the evidence themselves. Well, they knew. Marshall Clark called Scheck and Newfield's claim a smoke screen.
That's smart, though. Not that they knew. It's
I
like,
mean,
no, you guys already did it, and you stand by it. Why should we do it again?
I mean, all you got to do is say it in front of the jury. It ain't up to you. You got that in the jury's head now. You don't have to test it. You don't have to produce. You don't have to test it yourself. As long as you got it in the jury's head, that's all you need.
Right.
Marshall Clark called Scheck and Newfield's claim a smoke screen, which it obviously was. The contamination claim was made by microbiologist Dr. John Gerdes. He testified on August 2nd, 1995, that forensic PCR DNA matching is not reliable, and the LAPD crime lab has a substantial contamination problem, which I don't doubt.
Yeah, come on. You know what stuff they're putting through that daily?
It is chronic in the sense that it doesn't go away,
Yeah.
he says.
Right. Okay. So we got some damning evidence there. Or accusations, right?
So, yeah, what you're about to say right here.
Gerdes testified that because of the LAPD's history of contamination, he would not consider any of the PCR DNA matches in this case reliable because the tests were carried out by the LAPD. He also claimed that consulting... Okay, see, if they would have done this in Santa Monica, and Santa Monica would have done the tests...
They might have had a case in Santa Monica, right?
Wow. He also claimed that consulting labs' PCR DNA matches were not reliable, as the evidence they tested went through the LAPD for packaging and shipping. I mean, anything that goes through the LAPD...
Pretty much, you got to be suspect of, right?
Gerdes believed only 3 of the DNA matches to have been valid, which were the same 3 the defense alleged were planted by the police, which was the glove.
The glove, the shoe print, and maybe the socks, I guess, right?
Right. Whatever.
During cross-examination, Dr. Gerdes admitted there was no evidence that cross-contamination had occurred and that he was only testifying to, quote-unquote, what might occur and not what actually did occur. He accepted that the victim's blood was in the Bronco and Simpson's blood was at the crime scene, and neither was due to contamination. He also conceded that nothing happened during packaging and shipping that would affect the validity of the results at the 2 consulting labs.
That's a lie. We already got the guys admitting it.
So he said it for the defense, but when he got cross-contaminated, when he got cross-examined, he's like, well, maybe it didn't. See,
You know what? No, this... Oh, the Simpson Brown case. No, man, that evidence was great. I thought you guys were talking about the Brown Simpson case.
the whole jury is so confused right now, dude. These witnesses for both sides are flipping and flopping.
Both sides.
I don't see how any of these witnesses are credible.
I think what we just heard by those 2 guys saying, yeah, we went and used the same gloves. And I think that happened throughout the whole investigation for the prosecuting. It was just we used the same gloves on everything. So
well, I'm sure if we looked up other notable cases in LAPD before this, there was probably a lot of cases that were thrown out due to contamination of evidence or something like that.
Right.
Which I'm sure this guy knows.
That we use the same gloves as far in a lot of cases.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. This guy has this glove has blood from murder defendant from 1968 on it. How is that possible?
I'm very suspicious, Your Honor. I always use the same pair of rubber gloves on every murder investigation.
They're my lucky rubber gloves, and I never wash them.
I thought it was funny when Cochran went up there and was like, the evidence we found on the gloves came back to Ted Bundy. This is right now, because of what we know, the story of these two people, it's more than likely the case where you want to be like, yeah, OJ did it. The evidence points to it. But also a couple things are fishy about the gloves, the socks,
Inconsistencies in the
shoes,
story.
no shirt out of nowhere. He just don't have and then not saying that. Oh wow, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait to the end.
We'll
of
have
this.
to give our final thoughts, right?
Right. The prosecution implied that Gerdes was not a credible witness.
He didn't sound too credible because he flip-flopped as soon as the
Sure in the hell did.
cross-examination came.
Sure in the hell did. He had no forensic experience and only testified to criminal defendants in the past and always said the DNA evidence against them was not reliable due to contamination.
So this guy's got a record of repeatedly saying the same thing at every defense trial. Wow.
Clark also implied that it was not a coincidence that the 3 evidence items he initially said were valid were the same 3 the defense claimed were planted.
Of course.
While the other 58 items were all false positives and the 47 substrate controls, which used to determine if the contamination occurred, were also negatives. Defense
Right.
forensic DNA expert Dr. Henry Lee testified on 24th of August, 1995, and admitted that Gerdes' claim was improbable. Well, how improbable? Highly improbable.
Okay, well, prosecution's getting a one-up right here, but hold on a second.
Here we go.
Because Barry Scheck's 8-day cross-examination of Dennis Fung was lauded in the media. However, Howard Coleman, president of the Seattle-based forensic DNA laboratory GenLex, criticized Scheck's cross-examination as smoke and mirrors. Isn't that the second time we've heard that?
Right.
And stated everything we get in the lab is contaminated to some degree. What contamination and degradation will lead you... Okay. What contamination and degradation will lead you to is an inclusive result.
It doesn't.
Okay,
right.
yeah. What contamination and degradation will lead you to is an inclusive result. It doesn't lead you to a false positive, he says.
Yeah, but it does.
No, it'll just be inconclusive.
Right, but right.
It would always be inconclusive. You're not going to get a false positive if something's contaminated.
Right. It's true. Yeah, all right, I get it.
Okay, now I'm back with the prosecution.
The defense initially only claimed that 3 exhibits were planted by the police, but eventually argued that virtually all of the blood evidence against Simpson was planted in a police conspiracy.
What reason do the police have to take down Simpson?
Well,
Everybody loved him.
right, that don't make no sense right now. They accused the nurse of the prison, Thano Pradas, criminalist Dennis Fung, Andrea Mazzala, and Colin Yamauchi, and Vanater, and Furman of participating in a plot to frame Simpson.
Jeez,
like all these
that's a
guys
hell of a plot,
are framing
right?
Simpson for why? In closing arguments. Oh, these are closing arguments. Cochran called Furman and Vanater twins of deception and told the jury to remember Vanater as the man who carried the blood and Furman as the man who found the glove.
He did. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We had originally planned over here to do part 2 all the way through until the end of the trial and the end of the murder case altogether, but seeing how this one is a little over an hour already, and we still literally have about probably a little over an hour left, we weren't trying to do no 2-hour plus episode, so we're going to leave off right here, right before the big accusations of the police planting evidence against OJ, and we will pick up next week with all of that stuff and finish up the trial and get the reactions and all that stuff after the verdict. And yeah, that's going to do it for us on this episode, part 2 of the OJ Simpson murder case. If you guys are big fans of history, other history stuff, we do another show called Battles of the American Civil War, where, as the name suggests, we take a look at and cover all the battles from the Civil War, from the first battle all the way up to the last battle. We are currently just entering 1862. We finished up the first 4 battles of 1862 on our last episode, and we are chugging along with probably arguably the bloodiest year of the war, 1862, coming up over on Battles of the American Civil War. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And we will be back next week for the conclusion of the O.J. Simpson murder trial. And that'll be next week. We'll see you then. This is the Monthly Michiganders with Bang and Dang.